The UFC Sphere event is looking like it's going to be a complete flop. So I came across this post here by Boxing Kingdom saying the UFC have decided to compete with Canelo versus Berlanga on Mexican Independence Day. The UFC have now dropped ticket prices again for the event. This was always going to be the issue. Always going to be the issue with the UFC running this event on this date in Las Vegas when Canelo's fighting. Mexican Independence Day has had a Canelo Alvarez fight on it for years now. I'm pretty sure, from what I can remember, Canelo has always fought on this date. And for the UFC now to come in to Vegas especially to compete with him, it was just never going to work. Now I understand the UFC are doing this big card for Mexican Independence Day. The card is stacked from top to bottom, with Mexican fighters. But none of them are Canelo. None of them have the name value of Canelo. Even the main event for the Sphere card, which is Sean O'Malley. O'Malley on Instagram has 4.3 million followers. Canelo Alvarez has nearly 20 million. Canelo Alvarez is a massive star and is beloved by Mexican people. This was just never ever going to work. The UFC, if they wanted to do this, they would need to have a Mexican star either on the rise that has a lot of hype behind them or an established name. And the UFC, unfortunately, don't have that. So in my opinion, this was just never going to work. The UFC were never going to outsell Canelo Alvarez in Vegas. They were never going to win this battle. It just was not going to happen. We're going to talk about a few other things that I think the UFC have done wrong and ways, in my opinion, that I think the UFC could have competed with Canelo. Starting off with ticket prices, right? Obviously, the Sphere is very different. It's a one-off arena. It's very unique. Here that it's going to be very immersive with the fans. The seats might move and shit like that, and the visuals and all. The Sphere does look cool, but the pricing for the lowest ticket is $757, and you are fucking ages. As you can see on screen from the Octagon, you probably won't even have that good of a view of the Octagon. $757. The average working class person will not pay that. I'm a massive fan of the UFC, MMA, combat sports. I just work a regular job. Like, that there is nearly a full month's wage for some people. They're not going to pay that. The UFC should know their audience. They're not going to pay that. They not only would they not pay that, a lot of these guys can't pay that. It's just so expensive. It's ridiculous amounts of money, and I understand that this is a unique experience and it's going to be once in a lifetime, but it's just too expensive, really, when you think about it. I mean, after the 700 price range, you jump right up into the thousands. Like, what the fuck? Whereas you go to the Canelo versus Berlanga fight, it's still expensive, don't get me wrong. $428 for a ticket way back, as you can see in section 215. It's still really, really expensive, but it's nowhere near as expensive as the UFC, and this is surrounding for Mexican Independence Day. So say you're a Mexican, you live in Mexico and you're looking to travel up to watch one of these events, right? The flights are going to be a fortune because they will know that these big events are on. So the price for flights will skyrocket. Same with hotel prices. You know, like, this is going to be a couple thousand to get to the UFC event. It's still going to be dear to go to the Canelo fight. Obviously, I'll be thereabouts, but the UFC is just so much money. It's absolutely insane. I think that's the UFC's first downfall. Like I said before, Canelo Alvarez is beloved by the Mexican people. He's always fought on this occasion. This is his date. This is his fight date. And these people are going to go over there to get behind Canelo. He's the biggest star that Mexico have. The UFC's main event doesn't even have a Mexican fighter in it. Do you know what I mean? Then we move on to other things, right? Now, I don't even know who's fighting on the Canelo Berlanga undercard. And quite frankly, I'm pretty sure everybody who's going to that arena doesn't give a fuck who's fighting on that card. They are all there for Canelo. And Sean O'Malley, yes, he is a big name. I know a lot of people shit on him. He is a big name. But he's not at that level. And I think by the UFC doing this, it's just going to... I don't know if it's going to harm Sean O'Malley because I think he will get a spectacular KO over Marab in this fight. And with it being in the Sphere and all the visuals and all, I feel like he will look like a big star after this. But, like, putting him against Canelo just isn't going to work. I mean, Sean O'Malley is the biggest name on this card, without a doubt. Like I said, 4.3 million followers on Instagram. Canelo has 18. Alexia Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Great fight. Grasso is Mexican, People will be there to support her, get behind her. Not a big name. She's not a big name. Cannot compete with Canelo. Brian Ortega again. Diego Lopez. A lot of casual viewing people will not know who this guy is. Same with Brian Ortega. They're not massive names. Daniel Selhuber, how the fuck this is on a main card? It's just ridiculous to me. Ronaldo Rodriguez again. Who are these people? You know, the casual viewing guy who will watch, say they watch the odd Conor McGregor fight or the Alex Pereira fight that would maybe consider going to this. They look at this card and go, who am I going here to watch? Sean O'Malley. And Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, doesn't have the pull of the likes of Alex Pereira. Obviously not a Conor McGregor. These other names, he's not at that level yet. Like, realistically, look at this card. Raul Rosas Jr., you've got him on it. Okay, he's a pretty big name. Not even a massive name. He's just a pretty big name in terms of the UFC space. But, like, just in terms of outside of the UFC MMA bubble, he isn't a big name. This was always going to be the issue. Also, the location. I understand this is Mexican Independence Day, and you could say the same about the Canelo fight. Why is it in Vegas? It's always been in Vegas. That's been his spot. If the UFC wanted to compete on this date against Canelo Alvarez, fair enough. Yes, they are both combat sports, but they are two completely different things. I understand that. And plus, the UFC are on nearly every weekend, if not every other. This is just standard procedure for them. Why not? You want to build this Mexican audience. You want to build up the Mexican PI, all these Mexican fighters. Why not have this event in Mexico? I understand the sphere is unique, it's different, and this will be the first combat sport event held in there, so that's maybe something why the UFC are looking into it for. But, like, have it in Mexico. I don't understand this, why you would go to Vegas, knowing Canelo is there, knowing the star that he is, the power that he has, how many people he pulls into these events, and you go and do the sphere against him. It doesn't make any sense, and I understand that Dana White has said that he wanted to put an event on the sphere, but doing this Noche card, Riyadh season Noche card, it just wasn't it. 300 should have been the sphere. 303, maybe McGregor, that should have been the sphere International Fight Week. Not this. Not this. The UFC don't have Mexican fighters that have that pull. Unfortunately, they don't. Now, if they took this event in Mexico, it would be so much bigger because ticket prices would have been so much more affordable. I'm sure Mexico have massive stadiums down there that you could have it in. Be flooded with Mexican people. People from the US would travel down. You could probably get flights for cheaper, accommodation for cheaper. The whole event would be cheaper for fans to go out to. So maybe if you're looking at it going, if it was in Mexico, well, I can maybe save $500 going to the UFC event in Mexico instead of going to the Canelo Alvarez fight. A lot of people might do that. But no, they've chosen to go against Canelo in Vegas and they haven't stacked the card. The card is the main issue. The UFC Noche card is a really big letdown. Really is. It is such a letdown. Such a disappointment, in my opinion anyway. Merab versus Sean O'Malley is a great matchup. One I am looking forward to. It shouldn't be main event in this card. If the UFC were going to do this, in my opinion, and they were going to run it in Vegas against Canelo Alvarez, Conor McGregor should have been the guy main event in this. That should have been it. That was their only hope of beating Canelo. Having Conor McGregor in the main event. Or, like I said, having the likes of an Alex Pereira on it, but completely stacking the card top to bottom, which they haven't done either. They haven't done either of those things. In my opinion, I do think that it does, from the outside looking in now, that look like this event is going to be a complete flop. With there's so many tickets left available. Just comparing it to the Canelo Alvarez fight, I feel like though this event will get a lot of love after people see what it is because it's the unknown as well. No one knows what they expect. Like you could go in there, pay £1,000 for a ticket, go in there, and the visuals are shit. You can't see into the cage. There could be so many problems with this. It's the unknown. No one knows. That is also an issue that the UFC are going to be facing here. It is the unknown. No one knows what this is going to be like. Now, if they were to host a Sphere event after this one, which they have said they won't, I feel like it would do much better than this because this is the first one. People don't know what they expect. But yeah, the whole thing, going against Canelo on the same date in Vegas was just never going to work for Mexican Independence Day. The fact they haven't had it in Mexico, don't understand that either. The fact that the card just isn't great, let's be honest. Like, the main card has Daniel Selhuber on it. Great up and coming prospect, and he should be on the Mexican Independence Day card, absolutely. Absolutely, he could be a big star for the UFC in the future. Not main card worthy, especially when you're trying to compete with Canelo, the face of boxing. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's just my wee rant about UFC Noche, whatever you want to call it, Riyadh season Noche. I don't know. I think this has been a bit of a shit show, to be honest. Let me know your opinions in the comments below, and as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again in the next one.